Imagine you own a highly secure bank vault. You buy the thickest steel doors, the most advanced biometric locks, and the absolute highest tech motion sensors money can buy.
Right, a state-of-the-art physical perimeter.
Exactly. But what if the thieves don't even bother picking the lock? What if instead they literally build a master skeleton key out of thin air, a key that bypasses the vault entirely, letting them walk right past your security because the building itself tells the guards they belong there?
It's a fundamental collapse of the security architecture, and welcome to this deep dive.
Yes, welcome. We are looking at a deeply concerning set of reports today, and our mission here is to understand a massive, frankly catastrophic shift in how we secure our most critical data.
Because according to the intelligence we are unpacking today, the shared responsibility model in cloud computing, and really the very idea of a logical software perimeter, are officially dead.
They are completely obsolete. And to be clear, this isn't theoretical. Today we are conducting an autopsy of how advanced nation-state actors have systematically dismantled logical trust.
We are also going to examine the purely physical, mechanical solutions that are now required to survive this new reality, because the software layer can no longer save you.
Right. And to do this, we're pulling from two primary, highly authoritative sources. First, incident analysis reports from Microsoft Threat Intelligence, and second, highly classified architectural specifications for a system known as the Vapor Audit Sovereign Enclave.
Let's start with the forensic evidence of the failure. To understand why the perimeter is dead, we have to look at two massive espionage operations.
The case studies.
Right.
The first involves a Russian state-sponsored group designated as Midnight Blizzard, and the second is a Chinese threat actor known as Storm 0558. Let's start with the Russian operation.
Look, Midnight Blizzard is a textbook autopsy of why logical software perimeters fail. This group, attributed to the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, they didn't use some explosive, noisy cyber weapon.
No, they didn't have to.
Right. They quietly bypassed standard protections by using highly targeted password sprays, and they aimed these at legacy, non-production OAuth applications.
Okay, let's unpack the mechanics of that. A password spray, that is not the same as a brute force attack, right?
Correct. I mean, in a standard brute force attack, you take one target username and hammer it with thousands of password guesses in seconds.
Which immediately trips the alarms. The security software sees the massive spike in failed logins and locks the account down.
Exactly. Password spraying flicks that logic. You take one very common password and you try it across thousands of different accounts very slowly. And to hide their tracks, Midnight Blizzard routed this through a distributed residential proxy infrastructure.
Meaning they forced their login attempts through regular, everyday home internet connections all over the world. So to the victim, it didn't look like an attack coming from a known malicious server.
Precisely. It just looked like normal users. They kept their attempt volume intentionally low, blending perfectly into the background noise. They completely evaded traditional alarms.
And what they were targeting, the OAuth applications, that's critical here. OAuth is essentially the framework that lets you use, say, a Microsoft account to log into a third-party app. It's like a VIP pass.
That's an accurate analogy. And Midnight Blizzard found a forgotten test environment VIP pass that still retained elevated access privileges.
A completely overlooked logical vulnerability.
Well, they compromised that legacy app, used it to create additional malicious applications, and then literally granted themselves the Office 365 Exchange Online full access role,
giving them total silent access to corporate email environments. They never tripped an intrusion detection system because they just walked in with a badge the system recognized as valid.
They exploited the system's own trust logic against it. But as bad as that is, the Chinese actor, Storm 0558, demonstrated an even more severe architectural compromise.
Yeah, this one is clinically terrifying.
It is. They didn't just exploit a forgotten VIP pass. They bypassed the operating system entirely. Forensic analysis confirmed they managed to extract a Microsoft consumer cryptographic signing key directly from memory crash dumps.
Wait, a memory crash dump? You mean when a system encounters a fatal error, like a blue screen, and the server dumps all its raw RAM contents into a diagnostic file?
That's exactly what it is. That raw memory snapshot happened to contain the cryptographic signing key. But the truly devastating part of this autopsy is a validation flaw in Microsoft's code.
Right, because a consumer key should never have that kind of power.
No, it shouldn't. But because of this validation flaw, that consumer-grade key was inherently trusted to generate enterprise-level tokens.
So going back to our bank vault analogy from the start,
Right.
Storm 0558 didn't pick the lock. They sifted through the digital garbage, found a piece of consumer plastic, and exploited a flaw to forge a master skeleton key out of thin air.
And with that forged key, they had the absolute authority to mint valid authentication tokens for roughly 25 different organizations, including highly sensitive U.S. government agencies.
They could just mint their own access whenever they pleased.
Exactly. But the sources highlight an even deeper, more fundamental vulnerability exposed here. The ultimate threat operates at what we call ring -1.
Ring -1. Let's define that for the listener, because this is where the briefing turns really dark. Computing privileges are structured in concentric rings, right?
Yes. Ring 3 is where normal user applications execute your web browser, for instance. Ring 0 is the operating system's kernel. Windows, Linux. Ring 0 controls everything happening on that specific virtual machine.
But in the cloud, you don't just have one operating system sitting on bare metal. You have dozens of virtual machines sharing the same physical silicon.
Right, and the software that manages all those virtual machines, allocating memory and CPU cycles, that's the hypervisor. The hypervisor operates at ring -1.
It sits beneath the operating system. It is the literal foundation.
Exactly. So if an advanced persistent threat compromises the hypervisor at ring -1, they have absolute total authority over every single guest operating system running above them.
We define this specific threat vector as the silent observer.
The silent observer, yes. An adversary at the hypervisor level has a vantage point completely below the visibility horizon of the guest OS.
Meaning you can install the most aggressive endpoint security inside your Linux environment, and it is entirely useless. It cannot see what is happening beneath it.
It's essentially the Matrix. The operating system thinks it perceives reality, but the compromised hypervisor controls the physical code of that world.
It's gaslighting the security software.
Exactly. From ring -1, the hypervisor can use micro-architectural side channels. It monitors shared physical resources like the L3 cache on the processor to silently steal session keys from live memory.
While the guest operating system remains completely unaware, it falsely reports a secure green light state to the administrators.
And this brings us to the core declaration of this briefing. Because these ring -1 attacks render software-based security utterly blind, the entire paradigm of logical infrastructure defense must be abandoned.
It has to be replaced with absolute physical certainty, which introduces the doctrine outlined in our classified sources, the hostile memory environment, or HME.
The HME doctrine requires a total mindset shift. We must assume, as a baseline, that the underlying infrastructure, the hypervisor, and the silicon itself are already compromised. They are adversarial.
We have to assume the building is already owned by the thieves. That is a grim operational reality.
It is. And to survive in an HME, the Vapor Audit specifications detail an architecture known as the Sovereign Enclave. In the schematics, it carries the visual designation Demolition Man.
The Sovereign Enclave. It's a physically isolated computing container, and it abandons logical trust entirely. It doesn't trust software metadata, it doesn't trust IP addresses, and it absolutely does not trust the hypervisor.
It relies entirely on the physics.
But I have to challenge this clinically, based on the specs. If we operate under the HME doctrine, assuming the silicon and hypervisor are already controlled by a hostile entity, how does a container secure data? It still relies on that hostile hardware to execute instructions.
It secures the data by replacing software reporting with immutable physical constants. The enclave forces the hardware to prove its integrity through mathematical and thermodynamic laws.
Because you can compromise a hypervisor, but you cannot spoof the laws of physics.
Precisely. Let's look at the mechanisms they use to measure physical reality rather than reading software logs. The first is called Alibi routing.
Right, Alibi routing. This is engineered specifically to defeat something called a teleportation attack.
Yes. In a standard cloud environment, a hypervisor can seamlessly migrate a running virtual machine from one physical server blade to another. It's a standard feature called a live migration stream.
Used for load balancing or maintenance usually. But a hostile hypervisor at ring -1 could weaponize that. They could silently teleport your entire secure workload to a server physically located in a foreign adversary jurisdiction.
Exactly. And because the hypervisor manipulates the metadata, your software dashboard will still claim the server is in, say, Virginia. The IP address hasn't changed.
The operating system is being lied to. The machine is physically in a hostile country, but the logs say it's safe at home.
Right. So Alibi routing stops this by relying on the universal speed of light.
This detail in the specs is frankly brilliant. They use the speed of electromagnetic radiation in fiber optics.
Yes, roughly 200,000 kilometers per second through standard single-mode fiber. That is a physical constant. It cannot be negotiated by software.
So the Sovereign Enclave bypasses the OS entirely. It fires raw data packets out to trusted, verified physical locations. The specs call them Alibi nodes.
Correct. It transmits these probe packets and captures highly granular hardware-level timestamps to measure the exact round-trip time, the RTT.
And it enforces a brutal latency threshold, exactly 15 milliseconds.
Right, because distance equals speed multiplied by time, that strict 15-millisecond round trip creates a mathematically unforgeable geographic radius of roughly 1,500 kilometers.
The physics dictate the location. If that ping takes 16 milliseconds, the server is physically located outside the authorized boundary.
It doesn't matter what the IP address claims. A hostile cloud provider cannot make light travel faster than 200,000 kilometers per second to fake the response time.
If the 15-millisecond rule is breached, the host is immediately exposed as hostile.
That secures the physical geography. But we still have to address the silent observer threat. If the adversary is hiding at ring -1 on a server that is geographically valid, how do you detect them?
This is where the architecture deploys the thermodynamic sentry.
Yes, and again, this relies entirely on physical properties. Computation is not just abstract math. It is a physical process governed by thermodynamics and energy conservation.
I mean, when most analysts think of thermodynamics, they think of mechanical engineering, not cyber forensics. How does entropy catch a hypervisor intrusion?
Think of it as detecting micro-architectural friction. When a hypervisor decides to secretly inspect the memory of a guest machine, it has to briefly pause that machine. This is an operation called a world switch.
And pausing that machine has physical consequences on the processor.
Exactly. It inevitably causes evictions in the processor's high-speed memory, the L3 cache. The hypervisor needs that cache space to execute its own inspection logic.
It's like someone distracting you while you're reading a book. They take the book, read a page to see what you're doing, and put it back. But they don't place it in the exact same spot on the desk.
That's a perfect physical analogy. When you return to your task, it takes you a fraction of a second longer to locate the book. In the CPU, fetching data from main RAM, because it was evicted from the L3 cache, takes orders of magnitude more cycles.
The specs define this resulting phenomenon as time dilation.
Right. The hypervisor attempts to pause the virtual clock to hide its tracks, but the physical hardware clock on the motherboard cannot be stopped. It just keeps ticking.
So the thermodynamic sentry executes a highly specific, deterministic computational workload, a math problem, deep within the core.
Yes, and in a truly secure, unobserved state, this specific calculation takes a highly predictable number of physical CPU cycles to complete. The Sentry maintains a constant statistical baseline of this execution time.
It knows exactly how fast the math should be completed.
Right. And if the hypervisor interrupts the flow to steal keys, the resulting cache misses cause a microscopic delay in that math problem. If that delay breaches a 3 sigma threshold,
meaning a z-score greater than 3.0, statistically proving it is not random background noise.
Exactly. If the 3 sigma threshold is breached, the Sentry mathematically proves the presence of a silent observer. It detects the thermodynamic energy shadow of the hypervisor's intrusion.
It's mathematically infallible. But clinically speaking, detection is irrelevant without a response protocol. Once that 3 sigma threshold is breached, or the alibi route fails, the system must act immediately.
And it prioritizes data destruction over data availability. This is the kinetic defense.
The protocol known in the specs is cryptographic suicide.
It's a stark designation, but necessary. This defense is entirely predicated on a kinetic race condition called the snapshot gap.
Because when a hostile hypervisor initiates a memory snapshot to steal the keys, it isn't instantaneous. Physics applies to the attacker too.
Right. The hypervisor has to issue commands, stop the CPU threads, and execute the context switch. That sequence takes over 1,000 CPU cycles to lock the memory state.
That 1,000 cycles is the snapshot gap. It's a tiny window, but it's a window.
And Vapor Audit is mechanically engineered to win this exact latency race. When the Sentry detects the time dilation, it reacts in under 100 cycles.
It wins the race by a factor of 10, beating the hypervisor before it can freeze the system.
It does. But as forensic analysts, we have to look at the brutal nature of this mechanism. The system does not attempt to log the intrusion, it does not alert an administrator, and it absolutely does not execute a graceful shutdown.
It chooses absolute, immediate death. It prioritizes the destruction of the cryptographic material above the survival of the host.
The execution of this protocol is called the zero-AXFF Scorch. It's the core of the hermetic panic response, and it has to defeat a very specific software optimization problem.
Right, dead store elimination.
Exactly. Standard memory wiping commands often fail during a critical event. Modern compilers, the software that translates source code into machine instructions, they are designed to optimize performance.
So the compiler looks at the instruction to wipe the memory, realizes the program is about to terminate anyway, and decides to skip the wiping step to save time.
Yes. The compiler silently removes the right instruction. It thinks it's doing you a favor, but it leaves your highly sensitive keys sitting completely intact in physical RAM, ready for the hypervisor to extract.
It's an optimization bug that becomes a fatal vulnerability. So how does the zero-AXFF Scorch bypass the compiler?
It executes a volatile write command. Mathematically, this legally mandates the compiler to recognize that the action has side effects visible to the physical hardware. It overrides all software optimizations.
It mechanically scorches the physical memory banks, forcing the CPU to overwrite the sensitive data with zero-AXFF high entropy noise.
It physically burns the data, and immediately following that scorch, the system executes a process abort.
Now, a process abort is fundamentally different from a standard crash or exit.
Right. It is entirely different. Normally, when a program panics, it enters a cleanup phase. It unwinds the call stack, releases memory handles, gracefully closes down.
But a compromised hypervisor at ring -1 can hijack that exact cleanup phase to extract data. It uses your own exit procedure against you.
Exactly. By executing a strict process abort, the Sovereign Enclave terminates instantly. It skips the cleanup phase entirely. It crashes the system without unwinding the stack, which prevents any forensic recovery by the attacker.
There is no cleanup. It detonates the foundation, fails to a dead state, and leaves the adversary with nothing but high-entropy ash.
That is the grim reality of the kinetic defense. And it brings us to the definitive takeaway of this intelligence briefing.
The operations we've analyzed today, Midnight Lizard, Storm 0558, they definitively prove that software attestations are a liability. The shared responsibility model is fundamentally compromised.
Software can be gaslit, logs can be spoofed, but universal physical constants remain constant regardless of how hostile the environment becomes.
Vapor Audit has successfully replaced policy-based, logical trust with mechanical, physical certainty, geodesic distance bound by the speed of light, and thermodynamic entropy measured in physical CPU cycles.
When the foundation of your computing environment is adversarial, physical laws are the only anchor you have left.
And that leaves us with a chilling final thought for you to consider. We want you to evaluate your own infrastructure through this clinical lens if your current security architecture relies entirely on software reporting its own integrity.
How do you know with absolute physical certainty that your most critical data isn't being silently observed right now?
By an entity that controls the very physical reality beneath your systems. Think about that.